Drink and drugs, Shane Blankley found himself homeless and with no hope, aged just 19.
I found that I don't know where my next meal's coming from. I don't know where I'm going to sleep that night. I felt as if I was going nowhere.
Shane came from a broken home and had opted to live with his father and brother after his parents had separated. I've come to meet him to find out how someone so young could end up in such a terrifying situation.
Roughly what sort of age would you pinpoint where you kind of left the path of acceptable behaviour, if you like?
It's like 13, 14. I got into the wrong crowds. It was just started off as a bit of drinking, I suppose. And then a little bit of kind of light drugs come along.
And how were things going at school then, after that?
I was turning up hungover, or I was getting high in the middle of the day, you know, so it kind of come to the point where I was being put in isolation at school. I was being taken out of the lessons. They didn't want me there. I was being too much of a distraction.
Shane started to experiment with harder drugs, and it wasn't long before his erratic behaviour took its toll on his dad, with whom he was living at the time.
I was bored at home. I'd found my brother's car keys. Like an idiot, I'd decided to go out and take his car. I went for a spin. I've been drinking. I took a little bit of drugs. It wasn't much for me, you know. It was kind of like what I'd class as an average night. I enjoyed myself, I suppose. That was the kind of idea, but it soon turned into a disaster when I crashed it. When my parents found out that night, my dad just, that was it. It was the final straw for him. He threw me out there and then.
Shane's mum took him in, but it was a struggle for him to keep off the drugs.
So you're with your mum?
Yeah.
Is she more tolerant of what you're up to? Is she letting you drink and take drugs?
She pretty much made me go cold turkey. It came to the point, the first couple of weeks I was locked in. I wasn't allowed out, but as time went on, she gave me a little bit more freedom, and I think in that freedom she didn't realise exactly what I was doing in my spare time. I was getting the bus back to see mates, and I was going back to drinking and doing drugs.
OK, so you may be thinking at this point, Shane is just trouble. Eventually his mum decided to kick him out. Like many in his situation, he ended up living in hostels. Finally, he managed to get a flat of his own from the council and was working in a warehouse to try and make ends meet.
It was really good, my job, but turned to drink because it was something to relax me after a hard day, you know. But with me previously having drink problems anyway, you know, it soon crept up and started to become a problem. And I soon found that I needed something to pick me up.
Living by himself clearly wasn't doing this troubled young fella any favours, and left to his own devices, his drug use spiralled out of control.
It come to the point where I was 2 weeks inside my flat, and first few days I phoned up work, telling them I can't make it, and then it felt too much to even phone work.
Shane lost his job, and without a steady income, his bills started to pile up.
Really down, because of everything I'd lost. And then it gets a letter through from my housing association saying they're putting in for an eviction notice. And that's when things really started to drop.
The housing association wanted Shane out, but they also recognised he was a young man that needed help. So they arranged for Helen Parkin, a family employment coach, to help him get out of the desperate situation he was in.
He was facing eviction, he had the court order, he couldn't face the court case, he had no criteria with which to fight the court case, and this pile of debts, and he really just couldn't see a way out of the situation.
Helen was Shane's only hope. He'd been evicted, but she pointed him in the direction of a charity that could potentially help with accommodation and work.
We work with people who are formerly homeless, and we provide them with a community home to live in and a social enterprise to work in. When people come to us, we will find a skill that they want to work on or a job that they're particularly interested in.
Christine Dallas is the leader for the community in Leicestershire, which considered Shane's application.
What we saw was somebody who wanted to change his life, and that is really important to us. We can only work with people when they want to succeed. We could give him responsibility that would give him something in his life, we could give him his pride back.
Shane finally got the call he'd been waiting for.
Felt as if all of a sudden I'd gone from, oh no, the world is literally coming to an end for me, to being, actually, hold on, they're going to give me a job, they're going to put a roof over my head, they're going to provide me with money, and they're going to provide me with the support I could really need and I could really do with.
The charity provided Shane with living accommodation and gave him a job working in one of its emporiums, which restores donated furniture and then sells it to the public. Matthew Taylor's been working with the charity for over a year. He was given the responsibility of helping Shane to settle in.
I was sort of assigned to Shane, so I showed him around his room, his new room, and broke the ice with a joke, and we had a laugh together.
Matt's helped me quite a lot since I've been there. Even if it's simple things like waking me up in the morning, banging on my door in the morning to check that I'm up for work.
Having heard Shane's story, I've come to see for myself just how far he's come.
I mean, everything we're looking at here is for sale. This is a working shop.
Yeah.
It is a different proposition, isn't it, to any other shop?
Yeah. If you don't talk to the customers, you're potentially throwing away business.
One day Shane was on the shop floor and a customer came into the shop and she was very interested in the piano, and this beautiful music started coming out of this piano, and it was Shane playing the piano, and the customer was that impressed she brought the piano there and then.
It's great to see Shane looking genuinely settled. It does sound like he has a real knack with the customers as well, but when it comes to playing the piano, well, I could teach him a thing or two. Brilliant. Very nice. I'll take it. So, tell me what happens next for you. Where do you see yourself going if you can plan, 6 months, a year? How far ahead are you looking?
I want to go into youth work, all areas, all aspects. I'd love to go into a bit of probation. I'd like to go into, social.
So that's work. What do you want for you?
I want to have a stable roof over my head, I want something that I can guarantee is going to be there. I'd like to see a bit of my family more, I'd like to build some bridges, friends as well, friends especially. I have lost quite a few of them. So yeah, I think it's not just progression in work or any particular area, I think it's just progression in life.
Shane now has big ambitions, and it seems like his new family at the charity have high hopes for him as well.
Where would you put Shane right now? What position's he in?
We've seen a massive difference in Shane. As you can see in Shane, he interacts brilliantly with the other companions. They mentor him, they look after him, and he responds really well to that. Shane's definitely not at the end of his journey, but he is on his way.
I look back on me and how I was that screwed up and messed up at the time that any loss of anything was just, it just knocked me down straight away. And then I look at me now and, you can knock me down a couple of times and I'll keep getting back up. I've got that support network around me, I've got people there for me.